The rooftops of Paris are a great drawing subject for any purpose, but for a daily drawing exercise, it's a great subject because, firstly, it can be something that can be drawn fairly briskly. So it's good for a nice gestural style development. But it's also great depending on the angle for foreshortening. And that's what we're particularly looking at in this scene. The foreshortening along this row of buildings on the left, and particularly these dormer windows set into the roof made from the same metal sheeting as the roof, which are so common in Paris. Because the challenge will be to narrow them enough, both for the angle that we're looking at them from, but also to compensate or to allow for the effect of foreshortening as they move further away. So I start with the second window from the left, the first full dormer window that we can see. And then I'll just go backwards to the partial one that we can't see completely. And then I'll move down. You'll notice that I haven't drawn a horizontal line along the bottom, along the base of these dormer windows, because when we look at what we have to draw, it's actually a very uneven surface with all of these joins and mouldings of the metal sheeting. So we don't want to draw a straight line where there isn't one, because we are drawing freehand in pen. So we have to preserve paper, spaces, lengths from the very start. And so you'll notice that I've got a series of dashes, of dots, which is giving me a visual sense of where these perspective angles are without me having to draw a straight line. And it only takes a few moments longer. Now, this is a very gestural drawing, but I still want to get a great sense of the three-dimensionality of this scene, particularly in this grey metal sheeting with all of these rounded joins. Well, not rounded, but they're small, thin, box-like joins. Now, it's going to be difficult to do simply because of the scale and the thickness of my pen. This is a 0.2 millimeter Copic multi-liner pen, and I'm wanting to switch to a 0.1 just for the buildings beyond this one. So there's only so much line we can draw with a given thickness before two lines join into one thick blobby one. But at least in some of the closer sections, I want to draw the three lines to represent these, if you like, strips of moulding. A very common mistake in this sort of scene is simply to draw two, to simply represent the width that we see in one of the dimensions and not to represent the depth that we see in another. So just working out how many lines I need to draw here. And this is the sort of detail where it's easy to take it just too far along. Keeping this tight is really important. I've put 4 pencil dots for the 4 corners of this drawing if I do draw it actual size, which is what I'm trying to do. And so I keep a note sometimes on where those 2 right-hand dots are, top and bottom, and to see where the approaching edge is, because that just reminds me how tight I have to keep this. And every time I'm drawing, every reminder I can get at keeping proportions correct, particularly foreshortened proportions, is, I think, a really helpful thing. And particularly in a drawing exercise. Then when we're on location drawing and there are no dots for the corners, we've heightened our sense of how close things need to be during our practice sessions when we could allow ourselves slightly more guides. So now you see I'm taking advantage of the fact that I don't have this straight line. I can put these mouldings in. I don't quite put enough of them in, I realise, as soon as I've started, but I've decided not to try and squeeze extra ones in, that will just draw attention by looking awkward. And it is it is a quick drawing exercise. This took me, I think, about 17 minutes to draw in real time. You're seeing it slightly less than double time. And so now I have this building down the end. So having finished now the visually dominant part of the drawing, both because it's closer, because the sharp perspective angles attract attention, and because the number of parallel vertical lines so close to each other, I can relax a little bit, not in time or tempo, but simply there aren't as many things to look at and consider all at once. So I'm going to get these chimneys and chimney pots done that sit above this section that I've drawn. If you like watercolor, then these terracotta pots are always a great moment to splash color on, nice contrasting color to all the grays and beiges of so much of the Paris architecture. And I have enough detail now here for all of this that in terms of at least horizontally along the page, I can align easily with what I've drawn underneath. And the heights that I need to put that I can't align are really quite straightforward with this scene. So just working out some more of these very tall chimneys that are so tall, narrow, wide chimneys that are so characteristic of Paris. I wonder how many of them still burn fires down in their base. How many have been boarded up or replaced with something a little more modern and convenient and cleaner. But the chimneys themselves remain. I'm trying to keep a lighter touch as well with my line work up here, because I do want this front section to stand out more, because I think it is the really interesting part of this. Checking my perspective angles for the tops of these windows, and again you can see I put a series of dots that, whether they line up with the actual windows or not, I'm not worried about at this stage, and I won't worry about at the end, because I know that they won't be noticeable. Now I'm not worrying about hatching in this drawing. It really is a line drawing, because I was firstly wanting to keep it short as befitting a quick daily exercise. And secondly, I can always use it for an exercise on adding value, adding tone work, whether it's through hatching or whether it's through marker to a drawing. In fact, I think I might, because just looking at this now, I think it will really come up nicely. And it's not quite monochromatic already, but it's a bit that way. It's a very modest range of colour. It really is almost in value already. So I've switched now to my 0.1 millimeter pen, which seems a bit desperate for ink at the moment, but never mind. So I have this apartment building at the end of the street, at the cross street. And the important thing is I get the proportions correct, that I get these windows not too tall, not too short, but fitting in, aligning with the drawing, with the building that I've already done there. So I'm going super brisk, super gestural, just suggesting the building, make a bit of a botch of the ground floor, but never mind. So making a note that the windows of the two adjoining buildings up the end don't align. They have a different roof line as well. And so this is why it's important not to too quickly put lines across, because we may not want them across. And there's just a slight suggestion of what we can see along the extremely foreshortened right-hand side, almost to the point where we can't see anything, where we just see an edge. And then it's pretty much finished. I really hope you have a go drawing this. It's a great exercise to do. It's not particularly difficult in terms of the shapes and the structures and some of the elements that we've drawn in other exercises, but the foreshortening really makes it a worthwhile challenge and a worthwhile exercise. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope you have a go drawing it. Of course, you'll find the reference on my channel community page, so why not give it a go? And if you've got to this stage of the video, please hit the like button. But look, whatever you draw, however you draw it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.